Welcome back to the Simply Endo podcast. We have a fantastic episode for you. We are talking about all things moving down under.
We're joined by a good pal of ours and a former delegate at Simply Endo, Rob Chaffe. Rob took the plunge to move himself and his family over to Australia a couple of years ago, and we're looking forward to hearing how he's getting on. We're curious to learn about the ins and outs of how one would go about moving to Australia, what the dentistry is like over there, how easy it is to get equipment and materials that you're used to, what the money's like, the salary that they get in Australia, and also you'd be interested to hear about how difficult it is to get a double-decker. Hope you enjoy the show, and please remember to like and subscribe to the Simply Endo podcast. We've had some great feedback so far. Looking forward to hearing what you think of this one.
And go and get some chips at lunchtime, and then you go upstairs with your chips to a strip club. It's quite random, really. He kind of said, yeah, post upon this sort of DPR group and see what comes back. And yeah, I put a message on there, and I had something like, I think Facebook broke for about a week because I just was getting so many messages. Do you know what, Rob? I was wrestling with crocodiles on my way to school in the morning. Looking at buying a practice in London, but the cost of buying a practice kind of escalated during COVID. This call on the tarmac when we're literally about to take off, and the lady's like, I've just viewed a house, it's perfect for you. Here's the video, look at it now. I'm like, we're about to take off. She's like, look at it. Everyone's just chasing money. Our stuff turned up sometime in October, so we had like 6 weeks sleeping on airbeds.
Okay, good morning and good evening and welcome. Here we are with Rob Chaffe. Rob, good to see you. And it's evening for you now in Australia then?
Yeah, it's coming up to 6:30 in the evening here. Yeah, that's right.
We're 8:30 Sunday morning here in the UK. This is where we say Simply Endo is not just the UK. You see, we're worldwide here.
International speakers.
There we go. But no, it's great for you to spend the time chatting with us today, Rob. So we really appreciate it. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good. It's been a good day here.
You watched the race? You watched the Formula One?
I watched bits of it. I saw in Melbourne it was a bit wet. So yeah, I think Lando Norris won, didn't he? Did well. That was good. I kind of got out of the Formula One. Then that documentary's been on Netflix, hasn't it? And we've been watching that recently, and that's reignited my sort of love of it. Really, I think it's because I don't have a car these days. I've just got a road bike, so my love for motorsport went away since I'm so far away from having a car like theirs. But yeah, it was good to watch, actually. Yeah, I was thinking they should just do it up here, actually, because the weather's way better up here. And then they did it in an evening. They have a really cool spectacle, like this, like really nice sunsets could go down by the water. And it's not really like a race. Like Monaco's a bit swanky, whereas here it's a bit more budget, I suppose. But it will be kind of cool. Avoid sort of rain down in Melbourne.
They were talking about changing Monaco. I mean, I don't really watch the Formula One and stuff, but I've been to Monaco as a place, not obviously for the race. I think I was there probably the week before or something, and it was fantastic. But I believe I'm not a big Formula One geek, but I believe it's a bit of a pointless race because they can't overtake and stuff, can they?
It's really difficult unless you qualify first. It's really difficult, really difficult.
Yeah, no, I'm not so clued up. But we wanted to chat with you, Rob, about your move to Australia. But I guess before we get to that, if we could go back a little bit and just ask a little bit about yourself, sort of where you qualified, when that was, and kind of the path that's led you to where you are now, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, graduated from Newcastle in 2009. Seems like a lifetime ago now. And it sort of did the sort of MJDF qualification. I wasn't sure if I was going to go down the specialty route at that time. Then did the sedation qualification down at Eastman. It's quite a useful thing. I don't really do any sedation anymore, but it gives you kind of a nice background. I did quite a bit when I first was in practice. And then I kind of did some implant training at the Royal College of Surgeons, so kind of a background in that. Then, yeah, met you guys at Simply Endo.
Where did you do VT?
Newcastle. So I kind of started off in Newcastle, did VT in a little town called Concert. So yeah, big up Concert if anyone's doing any following us from there. It's the only place I think pretty much in the UK where you can go and get some chips at lunchtime, then you go upstairs with your chips to a strip club. It's quite random, really. It has everything. everything you need. One sort of town. It's got like a shop, it's got a nightclub. It's got so people that live in concert, you don't leave concert. It's got everything there. So yeah, it's a cool little town. Great. I had a great experience in VT there. They did like 2 sets. So they did like the GPT. So I don't know if it's called that anymore. Like the hospital-based training was done. When they did the bit in practice, it was done in our clinic as well. Then I was the sort of like the one that didn't do the GPT, so sort of the renegade of the group, really, just doing the sort of general practice part. Yeah, loved it. My trainer Craig was a legend. He was good lads. Had a really nice group of people. But then I wanted to move to London, so I ended up moving down south. I started working in the salubrious surroundings of Tottenham, which is an interesting place. I think I worked over the road from where the London riots started, so that was set fire to sort of, there's a carpet shop over the road from where I used to work, which has now been knocked down, I think, and it's where the new White Hart Lane is.
I took my lad to watch Guns N' Roses there a couple of years ago, and we stayed about half an hour away. And I said, "Oh, don't worry, pal, we'll just walk home." And yeah, as a parent, that was quite an interesting walk home with your lad.
But do you know what's amazing? Like when Tottenham are playing, in like at the time that's when Harry Redknapp was manager, and they were doing really well. They were in like the Champions League all the time. I think Gareth Bale was playing at that point, and it would be like, so say like I think one of the Italian teams was playing one time, and it was like the roads were shut and people were just walking down the street. It was like going to Wembley on like cup final day. Like I've never seen anything like it in club football before, like them shutting the roads and everyone just so into it. It was really cool at the time. So Spurs were like, well, they like kind of were struggling slightly in some respects. They kind of had this such crazy support when they get into Europe. It was amazing to see, really, from like being a I call it soccer now, being a football fan, to see that, and being a Derby fan as well, because we just absolutely suck at the moment. Although we were bottom of the league and we've won 3 in a row, so I don't know how we managed to beat Plymouth last night away, second. So that's quite good. But went to Tottenham. I'm sorry, I got slightly off topic. So went to Tottenham, did my first year in practice, but that was NHS, and I just hated it. I just like the UDAs and that sort of stuff. So I went into sort of, I guess it was kind of like private, but it was kind of one of those more of independent practices. So it was like they charged like really low fees, and you just had to work really quickly. So it was like NHS Plus, I suppose, at that point in time. Mm. Did that for a bit, and I was kind of been doing my sort of implant training at the time. And then that was down in Surrey, so a place called Walton-on-Thames. And then we moved to a practice in Wandsworth, which is kind of southwest London. Really nice guy owns that. It kind of got sold during the time I was there. Really nice place, enjoyed it. And then went to Clapham and stayed there for about 7 years, and then moved over here. And then I got into during COVID. I sort of realised I kind of had a love for endo. And that was when I sort of joined up with you guys at Simply Endo and started doing my sort of MSc training.
Were you kind of living in Clapham Way?
I was in Wimbledon. So, New Malden, which is just slightly outside of Wimbledon. But I did live in Wimbledon for a bit of the time as well, yeah.
That's a beautiful place to live, isn't it?
Yeah, it's cool. It's just like when you live in London, though, the problem is it's incredibly expensive and you don't get a lot of space and you're very overlooked. It is amazing. Like Wimbledon's a beautiful place. I think one of the nicest places in the UK. I was very fortunate to live there. They're actually selling our house there at the moment, which is proving challenging. But hopefully
you're selling your house.
Yeah, so we're going to be. The aim is to sort of stabilise and settle more over here. Sell the house, increase cash flow, which would be great. And then look at buying over here eventually, but there's some restrictions on that when you're sort of a temporary resident, so that has its own challenges.
See, Rob, when I saw you you come down and helped, you were great helping on the Total Aesthetics course when we did the teaching, wasn't it? And I saw you then, and it seemed like you had quite a nice life, a nice routine. You had obviously doing a lot of the dentistry. It appeared that you liked to do. And obviously, like London, I think you'd cycle to the course and that sort of stuff. And then I remember on that day you went, Dave, I'm moving to Australia. And it seemed a bit out the blue. How did that all come about, the Australia move? And how sudden a move was it?
I guess it would have been in the back burner for years, to be honest. We looked at it before I had my daughter. So she's just turned 7 now. And the way that was looking at the time, we just reflected on it, and it was like, well, we're just going to have our first child. It's trying to move away from sort of grandparents, family at that sort of phase. It felt a bit we didn't really feel comfortable. And then the second time we looked at it again, I couldn't really like get a job that would kind of fit the needs of like supporting a family of 4, which in itself represents challenges. So then we kind of put it on the back burner again. But my wife always kind of wanted to live in the sunshine. And she was in Dubai on a business trip at the time and was just like, God, I just need to get out of the sort of grim weather between October and about
October.
May. So, yeah.
October.
Those 12 months.
I don't want to sound like patronising living here, because it generally annoys people when you say that. So it's just, she gets like seasonal affective disorder, and it was just one of those things she'd get every year. And she just kind of mentioned it every year, and I was like, do you know what? I'll just, because I built my career up at that point, and I'm doing a lot of like digital dentistry, like talking for Invisalign, iTero, Exocad, around Europe teaching, and I was kind of, well, I've got a bit of a rep now. I could probably command a decent job now. And yeah, there's a Facebook group in Australia called DPR. I have no idea what it stands for. I probably should look it up at some point. But I just I chat to one of my mates who lives over here from uni, and he lives in Newcastle, which is sort of maybe 2 hours north of Sydney on the coast. And ironically, he's from Newcastle, England, and he moved to Newcastle, Australia. And that's an interesting story in itself. But yeah, he kind of said, yeah, post upon this sort of DPR group and see what comes back. And yeah, I put a message on there, and I had something like, I think Facebook broke for about a week because I just was getting so many messages. I've never experienced it in my life, really. And there's a guy who's quite a famous dentist over here. I think he's quite well known over in the UK as well. He's an incredibly talented fella. He also knew one of my friends back home, and he just kept messaging me kind of like, come and work for me. And I was kind of working through all the options, and I was like, well, we could either go to Melbourne for the money because they'll pay quite well, or I could go to the Gold Coast, but the Gold Coast sounds like all like theme parks and meter maids. I don't think there's much else going on there. And then he's like, no, there's more to it. Do some more research. And, you know, if you're going to move to Australia and you do all this digital dentistry stuff, I'm the guy to work for. I'm like, yeah, all right, mate, all right. And he just kept calling me. And then eventually I did a bit more research. Yeah, the Gold Coast seemed like a nice place. And we'd been to Byron Bay before, which is about an hour south. I'm like, oh, the climate seems pretty good. I'm not sure about the snakes and the spiders. So I kept like messaging the sort of fellas that run the practice. And I was like, so if we move there, like, will my kids get eaten by a shark on the way to school, or spider at night, or is a snake going to kill me if I'm sitting outside or something like that? And
everything wants to eat you in Australia, or bite you, or sting you.
Well, it actually doesn't seem that. I don't think it's quite that bad. But my daughter did get stung by a blue bottle jellyfish the other week, and she said it was incredibly painful. And she did have like some tentacle marks on her leg for about 48 hours. So yeah. That but it's actually one of the guys who I work with, Dave, who's actually my mate now. I was at his house today. He was like, do you know what, Rob, I was wrestling with crocodiles on my way to school in the morning, and he would say stuff like that by me. Like, really, you're like, there's so many crocodiles in Darwin. He's like, no, I'm just winding you up, mate. So although he had a tree snake in his garden the other week, and he was a bit nervous about that.
Are they nasty? Are they nasty, are they?
They're not so bad, but there is a few nasty ones. We've got like brown snakes here, which will kill you. So if you do get bit by something, you just got to see what colour it is, and then you just go to the local hospital and they'll give you an anti-venom, and it's all right. And there's a red belly. It's great, but they don't have many of those around here. They're more in the sort of countryside, a bit further out. What else have we got around here? We've got redback spiders, but apparently, I told you about this when I last spoke to you, like, when you do your first aid training here, you do, like use CPR and your medical emergencies and all this stuff. And they're like, right, we're going to get to snake bites. We're going to talk about spiders, about jellyfish. And I'm like, so when my daughter got stung by this jellyfish the other week, I went to the sort of, you might have seen them, like the Life Save kind of hut things they have there, the big yellow things. So I ran up to the guys, but daughter's been stung by a jellyfish. Do I need like vinegar? Do I have to like pee on it? Like, what do I do? Just basically, they put us in one of these little golf buggies and drove her up to the circle and put hot water on it and gave her some ice, and she was fine. But yeah, it's quite interesting that your medical emergencies now involve snakes and spiders and jellyfish, which is very surreal. South West London. So yeah, there is a few.
I'd be useless. I'm frightened of moths. I'd be useless. Honestly, I'm hopeless with insects and spiders, and yeah, I'd be hopeless.
Cockroach, to be honest, hate them. Absolutely hate them, and they're massive here. They're like about this big, about 2 or 3 inches big, and we get them because I don't know if you've ever seen a map of the Gold Coast. It's built like Miami. So you have like the beach, and then what they did was to increase the amount of homes here. They've kind of flooded the sort of like the land and created canals that sort of like spiral up and down in like a concertina style. So they build like roads into them, and you can build houses on the sandbanks around there. But because there's so much water, that's where the cockroaches breed, and you just get quite a lot of them. Which is nice, but you get loads in, I think, a lot of cities around the world. So you just spray them and they go away. But you kind of get used to it after a while.
So you obviously ended up working for this guy?
Yeah.
So you just did you come out, try before you buy? Did you fly over and go meet him, or did you just kind of say, here, family, here we go?
No, so going back to the story, I suppose we got a bit off track again, didn't we?
We always will, mate. We always will.
So we were talking about so he sent me the message like telling me to like look into it in more detail. And it's kind of more about the digital dentistry side of things, really, because like the practice group I was going to work in was like heavily digital focus. So they've got like same day crown CEREC scanners. So that was a bit of an upgrade for me. We've got like loads of different iTeros. We've got Straumann scanners, kind of got all that stuff. We've got CVCTs. Actually got a really decent one. And ironically, I've got this really great job when I get to look at the beach all day, just get insanely bitter that at the beach having loads of fun in there, like bikinis and swimwear, and I'm just sat in here in my dental practice getting stressed that I'm running late, which is quite the irony is I think the great frustration. But so I kind of, the job was great in sort of like in terms of practice, it was kind of like exactly what I needed. In terms of did I try before I buy? No, but we went to Byron Bay on a holiday, thinking about 2017, where we had my daughter, and we kind of liked the climate there. And we went to Brisbane, and one of the things I quite liked about Brisbane and Byron Bay was that everything's outside. So I'm not sitting chatting to you now outside. It's like coming up to 6:30 in an evening, and it's just so nice and warm, and it's like autumn here. Well, it's not really autumn, but it kind of is autumn. And I just kind of love this outdoor lifestyle. We kind of just ran with it, really. I kind of like just, pitched it to the missus, like we all do, and they're like, her that wears the trousers, what do you reckon? Like, decent job. And then again, like you guys will probably know better than me, like especially though you both own practices. So I was looking at buying a practice in London, but the cost of buying a practice kind of escalated during COVID. So now I think you could buy a practice initially with a 5% deposit, and that was kind of what I was looking to do. But then during COVID, they changed it to 20%. So I had like an agreement in principle with the bank and with the practice. But then in January 2020, I think it was, they just was like, nah, you need to put down 20%. And we just couldn't put the cash together. And I think that became a challenge, therefore, buying a practice was just, it became too expensive for me, sort of at the level of practice I was at. It needed to be like a high-end private practice. Then as an associate job, like there were very few in the area where I lived or in an area we'd want to live that kind of fit my needs, unless I set it up myself. And I kind of wasn't in that position, and I didn't have any investors really or things like that. Family kind of wasn't really an option. So that was kind of what prompted the move. It was like next step in the career plus lifestyle choice. So that was kind of what prompted it. And it's a great life out here. It's great for the kids. The kids love it. The schools are very nice. Certain things are challenging, but it's in terms of like practice, it's great. I've just, because I was like working a lot with iTero and Invisalign and things. It's kind of like you have to start again, which has been a challenge. So you don't have any reputation really over here, so you have to kind of build yourself back up again from nothing, which had proved slightly difficult. But I'm doing a sort of doing the iTero Lumina scan launch at Brisbane. their version of the British Dental Association conference. So that's quite a nice thing to be able to do. And obviously, having 2 young kids, I've really built that lecture really, really well so far. Trying to wrangle them and work. It's fun trying to do, you know. But so yeah, just building that at the moment. So that's been fun and games, and it's great to use the new scanner, and they've kind of kindly lent me one, so I've been using that, and it's a great piece of kit.
So you kind of came over, and obviously you must have rented somewhere blindly then. Hopefully it was okay. And
that's a really good story. So we were trying to get a property to rent, and that was difficult because at the time, like pretty much every man and his mother was moving to the Gold Coast, because like post-COVID, it was like, right, let's move up to the sunshine, get out of Sydney, get out of Melbourne. And then everyone was like, let's get out of England, let's get out of like Canada, let's get out of Brazil, let's get out. You name it, everyone was trying to move here. And because of the visa restrictions that you have when you get to sort of your late 30s, they kept this city as a really growing city. So the mayors kept this as a regional area. So one of the visa restrictions you get when you get to 38 is you can't work in certain professions in a metropolitan area such as Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and now Perth isn't included because Western Australia is classed as regional. So yeah, they're the 3 main ones. And so they kept the Gold Coast very attractive to people. So literally everyone was moving here. And you would like, we had to basically hire a lady to go and view the houses for us. And because of the time difference, she would say it was like midday Australia time, which would have been, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night in the UK. So you just basically fall into sleep. This lady would be trying to video call you to show you a house, or she'd be on her way there and they'd be like, oh, I'm really sorry, we can't show you the house now because they've told us it's already gone. So there was like literally nothing was coming up, or they'd look at it and it'll be like, that's not safe for kids. So they'd have like some of the houses were on the waterways and they didn't have fences over the sort of waterways. It's like, yep, my son will definitely die in there and there's bull sharks in there. So you know what happened there? Definitely. He's already been stung by multiple times, so I'm not doing that. And then we had just multiple like situations like that. And eventually we were flying to Singapore, so we were moving, still hadn't got anywhere. And then we get this call on the tarmac when we're literally about to take off, and the lady's like, I've just viewed a house and it's perfect for you. Here's the video. Look at it now. I'm like, we're about to take off. She's like, look at it. If you don't get this, we're going to really struggle. And I'm like, all right, fine. So we watched the video. I'm like, actually, it was really nice. So that was how we got our first house, was literally on the tarmac flying to Singapore at Heathrow. Watched the video and be like, yeah, thumbs up. And then we were filling out all the paperwork in like Abu Dhabi airport, sending that off. And then when we got there, it was actually this really nice house. It was literally 100 meters from the beach. You could hear the ocean from our bedroom. It was lovely. But when we kind of we'd been there for a while and we told everyone where we lived, they're like, you live there? And I'm like, yeah. And like, do you know that's like the second most expensive street in Australia? And like, what? And like, so we chose this place because we didn't know anything. We just had to choose a house. Ended up being really expensive. And then as you kind of get used to the Aussie dollar, you think it's not too bad. Actually, it's quite expensive. You're like, oh God. So we ended up moving after about 6 months we moved, and we live where we live now, which is great. So it's just literally over the road, and there's a main road here called the Gold Coast Highway, and the houses on one side of the highway are classed as, like, say, we live in a place called Mermaid. So in Mermaid Beach, which is the side closest to the beach on the highway, those houses are very expensive, and they're classed as beach houses. They pay a premium for a beach house. And then if you move to the side of the highway, which is classed as Mermaid Waters, even though it might be one street over the highway, it ends up being like the same thing. It's like, what was it? Nearly $800 a week cheaper, which is like £400 a week cheaper, just because of it. And we didn't know that. But we then found it out. Then we just were like, right, every week we would just watch what came up on the thing. And then we knew we'd already got this place. So we could just be a bit more savvy now, the area. Mm-hmm. And then, it's a lot better now. And it's kind of weird because like we rented our 3-bedroom terrace house out in London, which has got 3 small bedrooms. It is nice, nice, like one of those classic sort of, I guess it gets class. It's not the one after Victorians, whatever that would be. Is it not Georgian? 1930s house anyway. It's really nice and pretty. but it's so small. For the same amount of money that we rented ours out for, we can rent this place. It's slightly cheaper, and we have 3 big bedrooms, huge like space inside, and it's a swimming pool, and you can walk to the beach. So it's kind of, for us, when you look at it, like, it's still from a Gold Coast point of view, it's probably expensive-ish, but compared to like for like what you get in London, you're like, whoa, it's kind of night and day, really.
Sounds awful, to be fair, Rob. It sounds dreadful. I can't understand why you've gone. To be honest.
There are a lot of stresses that go with it, and obviously you miss, like, even like guys like yourself. Like, every time I went to a Simply Endo kind of meeting, it was like nice. I'd like a bit of a catch up. It was like you're catching up with old friends, isn't it? Like when you pop to the Simply Endo stuff, and those sorts of things are quite sad, really. And the reason we prompted it as well was because, I guess, I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but living where you live, but when we lived in London, everyone's just chasing money, and because you've got to pay your tax bill, you've got to pay your mortgage, you want to have a bit of money to go on holiday or whatever. So everyone's just working, so you don't have time to see your friends. Like, you'll see, if your family live around the corner, maybe see your family every couple of weeks or once a week or something, but you don't see your friends enough. And it was kind of one of the things that we said, we need a better lifestyle. Like, why are we here? Like, why are we like working so hard? Why are we killing ourselves? That was just what we felt. And then, like, with us being dentists as well, you feel like you're just paying so much tax and you just got nothing left. And you're like, well, and I've had a few dentists contact me since I moved, and they were like thinking about moving over here for the same reasons, and like the cost of living crisis. And, from what I understand, it's not improving overly at the moment. So yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? Like, you kind of miss your family and your friends a bit, but it opens up other opportunities. And then because dentistry is such an international language, there are slight differences. It doesn't, and because of the way that it works, in Australia they recognise the British qualification, so you just have to prove that you're qualified. And you have to just tick some boxes, really. You don't have to sit any exams and stuff. So
I was going to say that, Rob. Going back to there was a couple of questions that come in my mind then, and one I'll come on to is about the differences in UK dentistry and Australian dentistry, if we can, in a minute, because you've just prompted me. But if I go back to what I was going to ask just before, which was, the process when you decided, it's Rosie, is it, your wife?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you said to Rosie, we're going to go, and she was all up for it, and you thought, right, we're definitely going to do it. What is the process then? Obviously, you said about this forum and stuff, but more from a point of view of like Australian Dental Council or Australian government, visas, solicitors, what you actually have to do without being too, because it might be boring, but without being too boring. What's the process of that?
Mate, we're dentists. We love boring.
Root canal dentists, definitely, yeah.
No. So yeah, I guess even worse. I got really into like the nitty gritty of composite and bonding recently. So when you start talking to people about biz GMA and HEMA, they really. But yeah, basically what happened was, so we had these job offers. You then get the job offers, and you're like, right, okay, I'm going to go with X, Y, or Z. When you get to you've got kind of 2 options with the job. You either apply for a visa with the local government. So that would be, and then you're like a normal associate, but they don't often release those visas out. And that would be then you're just a self-employed dentist, and you apply through the government, and then if you get the visa, you can then just join any practice in that state. That's one option. And I was advised against that because they suggested you could get to a practice but gazump you, so you might get there and there's no job. So the risk is, if you're moving a family, you get there and the job's not what they said it's going to be, and you've got no patients, no money coming in. How are you going to survive? How are you going to support your family, pay the rent, that sort of thing? It's like, just not what you sign up for. And then, you get that with standard associate jobs sometimes, like, we've all applied for them and maybe turned up in them. There's no patients, and you get there, you're like, well, why am I here? I'm like twiddling my thumbs. So that's one option you had. The other option you've got is something called a sponsored visa, which is the one I went for. And then that's when the practice sponsors you. So they help you with the paperwork. So you have like a Zoom meeting. It's similar to what we do with all the practice, and we sort of agree. They send you a contract out. So you obviously read your contract, terms and conditions. Once you're happy and you've negotiated that, you sign that. They then send you over to a visa lawyer. The visa lawyer then tells you all the bits and bobs you have to do for your visa. So in terms of that, again, I've got to try and get it in the right order. They have this thing called the Australian Dental Council, so the ADC. First thing you have to do for that is send an application to those guys, and then you have to basically prove your qualifications. So there's all these certificates you need to give them, kind of immunization status, indemnity status, any complaints, things like that you've had, any investigations with the GDC, that sort of stuff. You then have to get all the paperwork notarized by a lawyer. So you have to go and find a notary, and they sign it. So they witness the real certificates or the real, like, you know, your CPD. So you make sure you hit your CPD targets, that sort of stuff. Once you've done that, you then send that off to the Australian people. They are happy to accept scans rather than posting it, which is good. And then you just wait a period of time for that. And I think that's about 6 to 8 weeks.
I mean, that sounds like a lot of work. You know, what you just said there. I mean, that's not a 5-minute job, is it?
No, especially when you're working full time, it's not easy. And then also when you're initially looking into it, you don't want to destabilize your job, and you have a notice period in your job. So your notice period's classically 3 months. You're not going to disclose that you're taking the afternoon off to go and fill out a load of paperwork. It's quite stressful and difficult to fit in, and you don't feel particularly nice about it because these are people you've worked with for the last 7 years, and you're not telling them, but you have to do, like we've all done it, we have to do what you have to do sometimes in those situations. And so yeah, we did all that. I did have to have one phone call with them, and then obviously with the time difference, it wasn't the easiest phone call to have. I think the time difference was really bad at that point. It was like, because it was 9 hours, it just gets a bit more difficult. And I think it was something like, I was on the phone to them for like 3 hours, and I got a call from Vodafone being like, you've had a £300 phone bill. Like, why are you calling Australia? So I had to change my phone contract. So if I ever phoned abroad again, I wouldn't have the same phone bill. And they just reduced it by, gave me some discount and gave me more minutes. And of course, I changed my phone thing. I didn't have to phone Australia again, did I? So it's always one of those things. So yeah, once you've done that, you then have to do exactly the same thing again with the company called AFRA, which is like the Australian version of the GDC. So it basically rinse and repeat. So once you've got your you get this thing called a registration in principle. Once you've got that and your ADC, so your Australian Dental Council certificate, you then can fill out the rest of the visa, and then you need to do a medical. And we did, I think that took about 5 months to get to that point. And then we did a medical, and you have to all pass the medical. So you have we had chest x-rays, blood tests, just basically made sure we weren't riddled with anything that we could kind of kill all the Australians with. And then did that, send that off with the visa, and then they lodged your visa application. And we started the application in January 2023, and it was finished in mid-June 2023. So it took about 6 months. And that was the application process for the visa. But then you're not obviously doing it all the time. It's like, it's on and off, but then it's a bit like anything like that. Like paperwork, you just get like weeks when you're hectic with it, and then weeks when you're not.
So when that paperwork's then done, is that it? You're ready to go then? That's it?
Yeah, basically, once the visa's approved, yeah. So I kind of roughly knew it was good. I got told by the visa lawyer that like everything was ticked off. They're going to approve your visa. I knew that in about May, so that's when I handed my notice in. So I had like 3 months notice. Was that right? May, June, July. Yeah. So in May, so I handed that in then. So then I did my last day at work, sort of August sort of time. Yeah, you kind of knew.
So how did you get did you ship all your stuff over? Did you leave it in Wimbledon?
Yeah.
What was it?
So in the houses in Australia, they're all pretty much unfurnished. Most rentals are unfurnished, unless you get in like a small apartment, which can get furnished. But most houses are unfurnished. So yeah, you just shipped everything over. So the whole house that was in June.
How long does that take?
Oh God, I want to say 12 weeks. I think that was it. And I bought this really pathetic app which could track the container ship. I don't know if you ever seen Madagascar, the movie.
Yeah.
If you anyone ever seen Madagascar, emigrate, you'll know what I'm talking about. All the penguins hijack the container ship, don't they? And then the containers all fall off with all the animals into the but they end up in Madagascar going from New York. And we were tracking the ship, and oh God, of course, everything's going to get missing. And then insurance. You have to do all this insurance and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, I was up to this app all the time, checking where the boat was.
What did you sit on in the middle where your sofa was in the middle of the Pacific Ocean?
Yeah,
and you're back home.
You'd be like, oh, it's in the Suez Canal now. Oh, that's really cool. It's in the middle of Egypt. You're going down there. Really cool, really. But then I think the problem was as well. Then when we got to the Suez Canal, though, I don't know if you remember, there was at the time it all got like shut down or something for a bit.
Oh, that boat got scuffed, didn't it?
Yeah, and you're like worried that like some like Somali pirates are going to nick your sofa or something like that. And then I bought the microscope. I bought it myself when I got into endo. So I put this microscope, and I paid the shipping company to put it in. Basically, it looked like a coffin. So basically, they just made a custom-made box. It's only like £300. It's really cheap. Put it in this custom-made box and filled it full of foam, and it got over here fine. But yeah, you kind of, so I insured that like all the way. So make sure that was like, I think it was like 38 grand or something like that, 36 grand. I was like, make sure that doesn't get nicked. But, and also because it's Zeiss in the UK, we get great sales support for Zeiss in the UK because it's a German company. In Australia, it's like owning a BMW. You can't get a part for love of the money. So it's just, everything's like difficult to get hold of because it's a very different company. But that's another story in itself. But yeah, it all got shipped over. We did have two things get nicked. So my wife's Mulberry handbag got nicked and a Chanel shoes got nicked. And we never got to the bottom of it, but someone nicked it somewhere along the way. But yeah, otherwise everything landed all right. And then, so we got here, we landed on that very, very memorable day on the 11th of September. So that's when we landed here. And then our stuff turned up sometime in October. So we had like 6 weeks sleeping on airbeds.
Gosh.
But then, yeah, it's all come.
That's hard, isn't it, though? I mean, that's hard to do. I mean, Emma and I were nothing like that. We when we bought the house that we've got now, it wasn't built. And we lived in a rented place and had, sort of zip-up wardrobes and bits and bobs. By the end we were there about 7 months, and by the end of that, I had a photograph of my wardrobe which had just totally collapsed, and it was just... so some of these things are a bit fun at the start, aren't they? But they get you down by the end of it, don't they, a little bit? So
yeah, it was
desperate.
When you obviously we were living in our house in June and we hadn't rented it out until I want to say it was like some point in July. So we had like a good few weeks on airbeds in our house, and then we moved in with my wife's parents for a bit when we'd rented out our house. Then you have the challenge of when you're renting out a house in England and you're living in Australia and you've got issues with your tenants and they don't want to pay the rent, or they don't, they get water damage because they do something weird in the shower or something. That's one thing we had a problem with. And so we decided in the end to sell the house, which is what we're doing now, which presents its own issues, but hopefully we can get that sold by sort of in the next few weeks, which would be great. But yeah, it's tricky.
Like Dave was saying, on a day-to-day basis, how is dentistry in Australia different from dentistry in the UK?
It's really health fund driven. So there's lots of health funds such as like Bupa, like private, insurances. And they sometimes have clinics have what's called preferred provider status. So if one of our clinics, they cut a deal with Bupa, so then they have like reduced fees. So they agree a fee. So then Bupa tells people, if you live on the Gold Coast, go to this place. It's kind of how you kind of got to deal with them. So that way you get like preferred provider status. So you just do reduced fees for those patients. A bit like Denplan, I suppose, in some respects. Then in other clinics, if they're not preferred providers, just they pay a fee that's just like a bog standard private fee, but the insurance covers half of it. That's kind of standard. But then during a calendar year or a financial year, it depends how the health fund is built. A patient is allocated a certain amount of money, and they have like two different types of like cover. So they have like general dental and major dental. So your general dental will be like cleans, checkups, x-rays, fillings, that sort of stuff. Then in major dental, you've got like crowns, implants, endo, that sort of stuff. And they cap each one during a calendar year. So you're allowed like a couple of checkups and cleans on one level, or you pay a bit of a higher premium and you get 3, depending upon your risk status and what you feel comfortable paying. or what you pay kind of out of pocket. So you'll just pay yourself. And it sometimes therefore puts people off. So if it gets to the end of their health fund year and they've maxed out their major dental for the year, they'll put off any treatment till the following year. So their health fund doesn't, so they're not paying too much money because they put a lot into their health fund. So that can kind of like, if you're trying to do a treatment plan, it just kind of sometimes affect things slightly because they don't want to pay it, so they put it off. Some health funds are good and some are bad. So some health funds don't pay out a lot of things and others do. So therefore it kind of influences your patient if they go ahead with treatment or not. So yeah, that's kind of one major difference. Otherwise, it's kind of the same. And fee-wise, it's kind of similar to the UK. So like an endo, usually it's around about $2,000 for a molar. Thereabouts will be 2,500, which is about like 1,100, 1,200 pounds. Crowns, $2,000, just over, which is about £1,000. It's kind of like in the private fee spectrum, it's kind of in the same sort of level, unless you're
Pretty good, isn't it? That's pretty good, isn't it? I'm going to have to put my fees up and talk with an Australian accent.
That's it. So yeah, it's pretty good. And then tax is different. So because I'm on the sort of sponsored visa, I'm employed. So rather than being self-employed, so I pay as you earn tax, which isn't the most efficient way of being taxed, but it's a bit annoying. But when you do your tax return, you can then claim back. So for example, I'm paying out on that microscope, I can claim back all my microscope payments, but it's a year. So we've been here, 18 months now. I need to sort of file this return so I can claim back quite a lot of money, which would be nice. I just need the time to fill out the paperwork. So that's kind of all right, especially when you've been there a year, then you just know each year you'll get that money back. So it kind of makes life a little bit easier.
Is there a difference in like how other patients? Do you feel like there's I mean, I know obviously it's a really broad question and there's huge differences in patients across the practice or even across the country, but what's the attitude towards dentistry? How do you find the patients?
Great question and hard to answer, and different areas are different for sure. So in the Gold Coast, for example, a lot of people come here on holiday and they're from rural parts of the country. So sometimes when they're on holiday, if they broke a tooth, they'd rather get your treatment done there and then, because we're like sort of like a city. So we've got all the sort of equipment, whereas the dentist that they might see in their sort of rural area don't have that sort of equipment. So they can't treat them as like to the same sort of level. So that kind of benefits you. Lots of rural areas, they have very little access, which can be a challenge for those patients. Fee-wise, because it's a different society here, I suppose, because we don't have free medical care. We have something called Medicare, which subsidizes it. So as a temporary resident, we get like a Medicare card, and then you basically can see a doctor pretty much the same day, if not the same week. So you're not waiting weeks on end, but you're paying for it. Like you pay like a certain amount. Say a doctor's appointment is about $110, but then you'll get $60 of it back. So you're paying about $50 for a doctor's appointment, which is £25 there or thereabouts, but you'd be seen that day. So as a society, people are normally used to paying for things, if that makes sense. It's not like on the NHS when we're like, oh, I'm not paying for that, that's too expensive. So that kind of, as a society, they're just more used to paying for it. And then therefore there isn't so much of a class system with things. So it's not like, upper, middle and lower classes. It's almost like the haves and have-nots, if that makes sense. And what I kind of mean as well by that is that it can mean some people can afford the treatment and some can't, but it's not like, oh, I'm just not willing to. It's just they just physically can't. It's because it's of the pricing, but they're used to paying for it, so they're not too disgruntled. They generally will go away, save up and come and pay for it, if that makes sense, or they'll take out a payment plan. So it's slightly different to what you'd get in England from that perspective, especially if you're working in sort of an NHS sort of setup. But we do something like, there's like a government scheme when people get vouchers, and they do have like free care if you need it, but it's kind of very basic. And the government does subsidise those sorts of places as well. So there is like some free care if people need it.
And in terms of not being Australian, Rob, how are the patients with you? Are they pretty receptive, or do you feel a bit isolated with them, or
No, they all seem pretty good. I do get a bit of abuse sometimes about, say, the cricket or something like that. And you get called a pommy every now and again, but I think it happens to me a handful of times. But it's just more banter than anything else. So I think in general they're all pretty good. And as well, like the Gold Coast is and Australia is a society that's kind of built on immigration. In that, like, there's a lot of international people here. So, like, Brazil, lots of Brazilian populations, huge in the Gold Coast. And people from all over the place. And, it doesn't seem to be a problem, really.
Pretty good. No, that's good, isn't it? Because that you wonder, don't you, sometimes whether people accept you the same. I remember people who had some patients years ago, went to live, down south somewhere, and they came back because people maybe they just didn't like them. I don't know. But, this kind of cultural changes sometimes and being accepted. In terms of dentistry then, oh, sorry, go on. You're going to answer something.
You say something actually that's really salient, I think. That, remember from Lean, I say this to patients sometimes. When you go and walk the dog around this, if you get up here at 5 o'clock in the morning and go and walk your dog, everyone will say good morning to you. And when you're in London, no one says boo to a goose, do they? Like, there's those videos you see of, like, when you say hello to someone in London, they're like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you talking to me? And then we have these signs up saying, neighborhood watch. And I'm like, you don't even know my name. The neighbors don't. I don't even know their names. It's not like a community, really. Whereas around here, like, everyone talks to each other and it's a lot friendlier and everyone wishes you good morning. And the Gold Coast, especially, it's like, in Queensland as a state, it's like basically like it's a very laid back kind of place, really. Historically, it's like a community of, like, a big farming community up here. It's very different to, say, the big cities of, like, Melbourne and Sydney. So it's kind of very laid back and friendly sort of place. And really nice bunch of people. I can't really speak highly enough of the people here, really. And I know, like, Rob was talking to me, wasn't he, like, last time we spoke about when he had a mate that went to the cricket in Melbourne and had a bad day. It's a bit like when you go and watch, like, say I go and watch Derby Forest and have a sitting in the forest and I'm getting beaten up. It goes like, Liverpool, Everton, you sit in the wrong end, you're getting pummeled by accident, aren't you? Doesn't really. I've never had that experience. I've had, like, a couple of, like, we call them bogans over here. So, like, they're kind of like, rough chavs, I suppose. I've had one person on my bike kind of pulled in front of me in his big truck. He'd clearly been drinking and was throwing beer cans at me and saying I shouldn't be riding my bike on the road, and had a bit of choice language. But I've had, you don't get a lot of it, really. I think it's a very, very friendly place, especially Gold Coast. Very friendly, very safe. Sometimes in London, you're worried about walking on a park at night, maybe. Especially there's that horrible attack of that lady in Clapham, right next to where I worked. So all the girls were worried about walking across Clapham Common at night time during winter and would choose a different way to go home. We don't really have that so much here. It's quite a safe sort of place. I mean, we get, like, crime and stuff, but it's not on the same level. So yeah, really sort of place, really.
See, you obviously talked about spiders and all that sort of stuff, and that was enough to put me off coming. But the one thing that you told me last time that really has put me off coming to Australia was that you can't get double deckers. And
well, you can. Very selective stores, so they're hard to get.
In terms of then dentistry, what double deckers are missing from dentistry? Can you get, when you first met, I remember you getting back to me about, I think it was reciproc maybe you were struggling to get. In terms of maybe endo stuff or just dentistry, is there stuff that you've not been able to get, and then stuff maybe you found that you've thought actually this is good or better?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, we had problems getting reciproc files. What happened was, I think BDW was the main supplier, wasn't it, of reciproc. Their license, I think, ended with the Australian Dental Council, and they didn't have a overlap on who would take over at that given time. So then Dentsply took them over, and now you can get them through Dentsply. There was a couple of months when you couldn't get them. So it was a bit of a nightmare doing a retreat for a while when you get used to sort of the Rolls Royce of retreatment files, and you're having to try all these different ones out that kept breaking, and you try and use a Wave one and it wasn't really working and that sort of thing. So yeah, it ended up, that was a frustration. Everything else, I mean, I think sometimes a lot of stuff gets on back order if it's coming from Europe, which means they just haven't got the supply sorted out. And then it's not like in the UK when you can just Amazon Prime it. If you order it by 3 p.m. that day, it'll arrive in your doorstep the same day. Because it's such a vast country here, sometimes you wait in about a week for a delivery. It's going to be frustrating when you're ordering very simple stuff. Post-cyclone, we've had some issues of getting things. So if you go to the supermarkets at the moment, the shelves are pretty empty because then the trucks haven't been able to get up here to sort of deliver all the food and things, or travel around because of all the wind.
You get the panic buying you get in the UK. You know, remember all that toilet paper
pasta and toilet roll.
Yeah, you have to buy the expensive toilet roll, and I think prices just go skyrocketing. But then now it's all just going back to normal. But yeah, exactly that happened, and then we had to stop our water as well. The people were just buying like bottles of water. You couldn't get bottles of water for love nor money, so you're just filling up all your drink bottles and just hoping for the best, filling up your bath.
So if I moved over there tomorrow, came and did some endo in your practice, could I get Dentsply products? Because I get some of the Coltine products and.
Yep. Pretty
Right.
much everything. Everything is the same. You can pretty much get everything. In terms of like releases and stuff as well, I don't know how it kind of works. So, for example, if you're getting a Invisalign or an iTero or whatever, I don't know if they get released in Europe or the States ahead of here. I'm not quite sure of that sort of thing. Or upgrades if they get trialed in one place more before another one. I don't know if that happens. I've not seen much. It doesn't seem like Australia's that much of a backwater really. It seems that we're launching the restorative luminas getting launched over here this week. So that's kind of interesting and fun. But yeah, I think everything's pretty much of a muchness really. If not, because like everyone's used to paying for treatment, I think practices in general, if you're a private practice, you kind of probably a little bit, there's more high-end clinics because people are used to paying out for the stuff. And then because certain things are cheaper, like insurance, so if your indemnity is a lot cheaper, tax is slightly cheaper, like costs of living is cheaper, people are willing to invest more in the practice, so therefore your clinic is a little bit smarter. That sort of stuff, really.
Have you got, would you say your work-life balance is better in Australia then?
To be fair, I could probably answer that better in a couple of years because I haven't really. I'm on a temporary visa on a sponsored contract, which is probably not the most salubrious of contracts. But what I would say is, in the main, it is better, and the reason it's better is it gets light and warm early in the morning. So you get up. Everyone gets up early here, so everyone's up at sort of 5 o'clock in the morning routinely, and so you're just basically out and about before you go to work. It's warm in the evenings. People are out and about after work, so you just kind of are outside more. So you're doing more things. The working hours are better. So when I was in London, I'd often be pressured to work 8 till 8, or if I didn't work 8 till 8, I'd have to work 8 till 2, and then work a sort of split shift. That is less pressure here. If you want to earn more money, yeah, you need to work more hours, but that's just life. So you kind of work out as you go how many hours you want to work. You're not as pressured. If you want to earn more money, then you obviously need to do more. And also, like, you build your reputation. Then once you've built your reputation, they're like, my practice just said to me, like, yeah, you can up your fees, so I can have a pay rise because I was just going to charge more. So that's fine. So I'm kind of like, because composites here are a bit cheaper than in the UK, but now I'm like setting my hourly rate a bit higher. I'm sort of catching up slightly on that now.
When will you be off the temporary visa, Rob? When will you get, when will you be able to move forward with that?
So with that, you are on like this fixed contract, which is basically, I'll just explain that as well, because it's important if anyone's kind of thinking about looking at doing it. So with your temporary visa, what happens is you're on this sort of sponsored contract, which is you get paid a salary, which is around about £4,000 to £5,000 a month. Plus then you get a bonus top up every 3 months, but then I negotiated it to every month, and I've been able to negotiate it up a little bit. And then that kind of boosts your pay with the bonus every month, which is good. So it kind of puts you on because also you're getting that money is after tax. So I'm already paid tax on it. So it's just like cash at that point. So you end up actually kind of being about the same as it is in the UK, but then it's just because I find as dentists, we're always trying to push ourselves more. The more we earn, the more we spend, and the more we increase our aims and expectations of ourselves and others. So that can be a challenge. But yeah, so that's kind of how the visa works. Then at the end, that's for 5 years. So if you want to stay here for 5 years, you can pack up any time within 5 years. So you stay for 5 or leave any point during that 5 years. The visa is also, even though it's sponsored, you can change your sponsorship. So if you don't like the person you're working for, you can move to another clinic. You just have to then negotiate terms with the other clinic, finish off with that one. Any sort of disagreements on sort of payments, fees, whatever, you then transfer over, and then it's all kind of done as a document, so you can find out what your entitlement is. But yeah, it ends after within that 5 years. When you get to year 3, you can apply for permanent residency, and it looks like currently the wait list on that is 9 to 12 months. So if you apply after you've been there 3 years, which will be next June, the following June, so at year 4, should be when we could be permanent residents, and that's when I would go on a standard associate contract. And then that would be then to say you negotiate your percentage and that sort of stuff. And then you can then, one of the challenges as a temporary resident, you can't get credit. So you can't get a credit card, you can't buy a car on finance, you can't really get a mortgage. So everything, you have to just deal in cash, which if you want to buy a car, so you move here, you haven't got a car, you have to buy a car in cash. So that is a difficulty. Yeah, once you've got permanent residency, it all changes. The other thing they do here is stamp duty. So if you are on a temporary visa, they increase stamp duty quite heavily. So it makes it difficult for you to buy a property, and as well as them also difficult to get a mortgage, if not impossible. So most people wait till they're permanent residents before buying a property, unless they're mega rich, and they can just afford all the different limitations, or buy it in cash or whatever.
Gosh. So is that the big plan then, Rob? Is the plan definitely you feel to stay there?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. Like, you miss your family. So if you go through periods of stress or anxiety or difficulties in your relationships, like we all go through at times during your life, it's not like you can just go around your mum's for a cuddle or whatever, or a cup of tea. It's that is a challenge, and you have to sort of sort it out yourself. You do find challenges making new friends, and that sort of thing. But I'm kind of blessed within my sort of work group that there's lots of nice people, so I kind of made lots of friends through them. And I'm a bit of a chatty so-and-so anyway, so I generally seem to kind of always find someone to have a chat to somewhere along the way. So it kind of seems, from that point of view, it's positive. And then, yeah, that's in about the kids at school. It's that they love their school, they love their mates, that sort of thing. So I don't think we would move. The other thing is we found that we'd moved here, which is destabilizing for your children anyway. We then moved to a house, of which we then moved out of and moved to another house. So we don't really want to do too much more movement on our kids for a while, because we just don't want to upset them too much, because they lived in the same house for like my daughter lived in the same house for 5 or 6 years. So I don't want to kind of, sometimes change is good in kids in that, like, it makes them tougher, but at the same time you just have that worry in the back of your mind that too much change is damaging to them. So that was on our minds as well. So yeah, we don't want to do too much more moving around for now. So yeah, the aim would be to sort of settle here for sure.
Fantastic. Do they seem happy then? They enjoying it?
Yeah, they love it. Yeah, absolutely love it. There's so many things they can do. Like, my daughter goes dancing like 5 days a week. She's just found this dance, absolutely loves it. My son's learning. We're going back to calling things soccer. So here we have footy, and there are 2 types of footy here. There's Aussie rules football, which my son's learning to play at the minute, and the other type of
That's
footy
just mental. That is.
Does look crazy. That looks barbaric.
To be fair, it's not too bad. It's not that bad at all. It's just like rugby, but rather than like, you don't throw it. You do this thing called handball. So you throw the ball up in the air a little bit and you kind of tap it. It's a bit like a volleyball thing, and then you kick it. So the only ways you can pass it, you can't throw it in a conventional throw. You have to just do it in one of those 2 ways. And each time that, if you kick it and someone catches it, it stops play. Then you restart each time. So he seems to quite like it, but. They do touch at their age. He's only 6, so they do touch. And he got annoyed the other day that the guy reffing it didn't do the touch, and he went and slide tackled someone, like a soccer slide tackle, and wiped him out. And I had to sort of take him to one side and be like, "Yeah, don't do that, mate." my son's a big lad, and he wiped this little boy out. So yeah, they love it. They love it here, and their school's massive. It's got like this. It's a bit like campus university, like those American campus universities. It's got like the whole of the school is in one place. So it got from like reception, so they call it prep, all the way up to sixth forms. When they finish sixth form, before they go to uni on the same campus, and they have like a big sports field they call an oval in the middle, and it has like rugby goals, Aussie rules football goals. It's got soccer goals, basketball courts, tennis courts, swimming pool, kids swimming pool. It's kind of has a whole shebang. So they're really lucky to have that. And it's a private school, but it's not the fees are quite cheap. Really, it's less than, I think for both the kids per term is less than what we paid for my son in nursery in London for a year.
Wow.
So it's
so does the government subsidise that then?
No, it's just cheaper. It's just because the things. It's just the way the things here are just generally cheaper. Like in the main, alcohol is more expensive because similar, but it's because they tax it quite heavily. Whereas everything else, because we had in VAT in England is what 20%. We have like GST here, which is 10%. So you're already paying half the price of tax on general like goods you buy in the shops anyway. So in general, things are a bit cheaper. And because the way that if you're comparing the dollar to the pound, it's about $2 to the pound. So everything's cheaper anyway. So yeah, it's a lot better from that point of view, especially when you're used to living in London.
I've been trying to listen if you come out with any Aussie sayings, Rob, but you haven't done yet. There's every now and again a bit of a slight twang. Are you picking up any of the daft words?
Oh, I love one saying that they say. It's called "my old mate." So the Irish say, "Oh, your man," your friend. And so, "Oh yeah, your old mate Ben," or whatever. Your old mate John. My old mate. That's quality, that one. Yeah, I don't think I've really picked anything up, to be fair. Can't think of any other one. Oh yeah, the one thing that's a bit funny here is you don't in England. I'm from the Midlands, and we say, "You're all right, mate." They always like, "Yeah, why are you asking me if I'm all right? Do I not look well?" That's one thing that I remember when I first moved to that. Whereas I think now I'll be like, "How are you?" I think that's more of an Aussie thing. How are you? Okay. And I think occasionally, like if I'm being serious, to be like someone says, and I've not really got into like. It probably makes sense to say it, but like arvo, they say arvo rather than afternoon. Especially when you're like instant messaging reception and like fill any gaps this afternoon. It's actually quicker to write arvo, but I never do because I just think I don't know. I'm not comfortable with that word. Arvo.
Was it easy to transfer your digital dentistry stuff? Because you've been quite big on that for some time, really, haven't you? Obviously your Instagram stuff I saw ages ago, when we first met, was a lot of digital dentistry. I know you said there were some challenges with some of the things you did, but was most of it straightforward to transfer?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had to set up a new iTerra account and a new Invisalign account. And it's annoying from a when you build up your numbers of cases and you get like either elite status or diamond status, whatever it is, all the cases I did in England don't count towards how many I've done in Australia, which is a bit annoying. So you're just basically starting again. So you can't just be like, "Oh yeah, I'm a diamond provider. I've got loads of experience." So you can't do that. But otherwise, yeah, it's much for muchness, really.
And what about the social media? I mean, it's quite, I was chatting to some delegates the other day at Simpliendo, and they were just saying, some of the jobs they go for is more important about your social media profile than almost how you are as a person. Is that such a big thing, or does that just depend on the type of work and where you work in?
I suppose it does matter because I got the job through social media. I got it through Facebook group. So it helps, I think, tell you it's almost like a portfolio, isn't it? So you can tell a bit of people about you. It's like a mini CV and you can present cases on it. So I get why people say that. The problem with it is you can be an Instagram dentist rather than a real dentist, can't you? So we talk about this all the time at it's Simpliendo. It's like, you can do this really beautiful looking RCT on an X-ray, but what does it mean? Doesn't necessarily mean you bleached it enough. Doesn't necessarily mean, you've got this composite that looks beautiful, but you might have filled it with a non-bulk fill material, or you might not have used the rubber dam. It doesn't matter. Like, it depends how you deliver. You could be really good with your hands and rubbish with people. I think it's a difficult thing, isn't it?
But is it as important to the Australians as it is over here?
Yeah, I would probably say it's similar, but I think, I would say it's similar. I mean, especially like the Gold Coast, everyone's blooming walking around in their gym kit, social media, and themselves wearing hardly any clothes, showing off the suntans. So I suppose that side of things is there, and you see that quite a lot. Everyone's selfieing all the time, so maybe that's probably more so than in the UK. But from a professional perspective, I think it's, to be fair, I think it's just part and parcel of modern dentistry. But I think we have, as people that own practices, or people that look at social media and decide, am I going to take on this person? You then got to interpret what that social media means, because you can dress something up however you want on social media, can't you? But it doesn't mean anything. I think people now succumb to the pressures of social media. Oh, that guy's really good, I'm not as good as him, and then you feel a bit rubbish about yourself, don't you? Because you just you compare yourself to others, and that's the danger with social media, and open yourself up to trolls. So you get into social media, and it's difficult because you're not, day one, you're not going to be as good a case as if you did after 20 years, are you? It's just common sense. But when you're starting out, you just feel you have to do it, and it's a journey, isn't it?
It's difficult though, isn't it? Because I struggle a bit with the social media side of stuff. I like, don't get me wrong, I go on stuff and I have a bit of rant about stuff, but I struggle with it because certainly things like Instagram and that, I almost sometimes wonder what the point is a little bit with some of it. I'm not going to put on a case. It's unlikely I'm going to put a case on Instagram where I've totally botched it up. Not that happens that often, but then even if I put a nice case on, I'm not sure what or whose benefit that is. Is it my own benefit for my ego? Is it someone else's benefit to say, "Oh, Dave's done a nice"? I just struggle with it. I don't get the point of it.
And that's the other argument, isn't it? Some people only post their best cases.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's what they do every day. But I think nowadays it's more like a portfolio for people. It gives, if you're kind of looking at jobs, it kind of is. You can see if someone's good at their job before they apply. It could be, it's part of that process. It's like, and everyone gets the same grades. If you're all getting grade A's, how do you split up the grade A's? You then have to start getting into the nitty gritty of that, don't you? And it's just easy, isn't it? It's free. You're not paying for it.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I find, I mean, you're quite good at it, Rob, aren't you? You'll put videos of yourself on talking or doing something, or I've seen videos where you are cycling, or this sort of stuff, and it's kind of interesting content that you're putting on. It's funny. I find it funny with my kids are very much, certainly my youngest days, he's quite happy to stand there and dance. Now, whether that's just because she's young and less inhibited, I don't know. But I'm not someone who struggles with talking in front of people, as you well know. But I find it quite odd to sit there and talk about something on my phone for a video to then put on Instagram or something. I don't know.
I feel the same, but I think sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, haven't you? But I kind of, the way I look at it, it's just like, if I want to market a course these days or build something, I've got to probably, the only way you're going to reach more people, aren't you? So you don't really have a lot of choice, even though you might find it uncomfortable. That's kind of my way of looking at it. I just want to also let you guys know my phone battery is running pretty low.
Yeah. So to clarify to anybody listening, this was because we started this earlier on, didn't we? Because you've had this recent cyclone, your internet Wi-Fi was playing up, so you moved to your phone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go and grab a charger and see if I can get it working, but I might not be able to stretch that far. So let me just quickly grab that.
It's just you and me, Masters, now.
It's not quite as interesting, is it?
Do a bit of a song, Rob. Do a bit of a song. A song to entertain everybody.
Shall I reenact Woodpeckers in Space?
Yeah. So you doing a bit of Les Mis for us then?
Yeah, definitely.
Did you ever think about moving away, Rob?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, when I first started my career, I desperately struggled and I couldn't settle in a practice. And and some of that I was a little bit unlucky with the practice I ended up with, and some of that was me chasing unrealistic dreams of what I thought the ideal practice should be. And the practice, in Hereford now, I looked far and wide, Cornwall up to Scotland, Turks and Caicos, Isle of Man, Guernsey, all sorts of stuff. Wow. And mine and Kate's deal was that if this didn't work out, we were going to chip off to Australia. And luckily, I found the practice, and we didn't need to. Or unluckily, I don't know how you look at that.
Yeah.
Gosh. You and Rob could have been working together.
Yeah. Rob squared.
Rob squared. Rob and Rob.
Budget and Scarpa.
Or like, we could be called the Chaffe Masters, which sounds interesting in itself. Used to having things rubbing, master of rubbing.
So with your social media, Rob, do you have a routine with it then? Do you go, I'm going to post them on a certain day, or is it just what you feel like doing? Or
you probably noticed that I went for a phase and I just didn't do a lot. I was kind of
you were quiet when you went. It was one of the things I'd written down. You did go quite quiet because you were very active, and I just thought it was just life getting in the way with you, to be fair.
Yeah, and you were right, really. And yeah, you just get a bit bored of it, don't you? Like, you feel like you're posting the same stuff. But it's interesting, like, my wife always says to me, like, your social media is too varied. And, like, you're a dentist, but you talk about, like, you mentioned cycling. And there's a guy we work with, he's called Yuri. He's a really he's one of the smartest guys I've ever met. He owns a practice in one of the groups in Slovakia, in Slovenia, in Ljubljana. And he literally can do any bit of dentistry. He's a really talented guy. He's all on four. He does endo, he does restorative, and it's all to a really high standard. I don't know how he's managed to kind of fit the time in, but he's also a professional weightlifter, and he's performing in some event in Spain, and it's live on Eurosport. So it's this like really talented dentist / bodybuilder professionally. And then he kind of messaged me being like, I really like your yoga posts that you put up every morning. And you're like, isn't it weird how like you kind of put stuff up and you just think, it's just me just trying to do a bit of mindfulness for people. Just make sure you just take a bit of time out of your day just to think about yourself. And yeah, it really kind of reaches people, doesn't it? Like you just think, normally posting root canals, or I post a picture of like a CBCT and the importance of taking a CBCT. That's a bit of a difference as well, actually, just going a bit off topic. Like CBCT is different here to in the UK. You have to do a licensing exam to take a CBCT here, and you have to do a licensing exam to be able to comment on it. And in different states, it's different. So in, say, Western Australia, if you're in Perth, every CBCT has to be read by a radiologist before you can comment on it. So that's quite interesting. Yeah, so my social media is a bit scattergun in some respects. I probably could have more content and more organisation, but I just go through days when I'm like, I can't be bothered. Or
I think that's quite nice though. Sometimes I've seen you've been doing yoga and going for your coffee and that sort of stuff. How'd you find the yoga? You said about switching off a little bit.
Yeah, we're really blessed here, and that I'm just trying to get in touch with a bit more of a sort of what I call like a spiritual side of things, really. And you can just go and do a yoga by the beach, and it's like you can just feel the ocean and hear the sound. And like you usually go and do a yoga class, and they put that weird fake ocean noise on, don't they? And it's kind of weird. You're just sitting there, and actually, it's like that weird ocean noise isn't there. It's just the ocean, and it's kind of weird. So yeah, I really enjoy that. It kind of helps me start the day really calmly. Like at the end of a yoga, you just do a bit of shavasana. So you just shut your eyes and listen to the world around you and think about what you got coming up for the day, organise your brain. Yeah, I really quite like it. Kind of grounds me a little bit.
Yeah, that's a huge topic, isn't it? Fascinating topic, and one hopefully, Rob, that we can possibly get you back on the pod and have a chat about all that again, sure. if we can borrow you for a second time.
Yeah, of course, sure.
Yeah, anytime. That'd be good. That'd be great.
Maybe not the middle of the night, but yeah.
So no, great. Thanks, Rob. It's been fantastic having a chat with you. We had, I think you've given us a great insight into what's important in making the move to Australia. Thanks for spending the time with us. It's been great. And as I said before, very much enjoy your social media posts. So hopefully they continue. We've had some technical problems with the internet connection, and I suspect, unless you're holding a really still face, you've gone again, unfortunately.
But thank you very much, Rob. Yeah, we really appreciate it, mate.
Really appreciate it, and we will catch up next time, because I know we've got lots of other things we can chat about, and that'll be ace. So thanks everyone for listening, and we hope you found it useful, and we will look forward to seeing you on the next one.